Here's a possible opening for the YouTube video. Think about the people in your life, and the ones you've watched from afar, who possess an unnerving ability to dominate every conversation, to control every situation, and to always get what they want no matter the cost to others. What fuels this insatiable hunger for power, this unrelenting drive to assert dominance over others, is a complex web of insecurities, deep-seated fears, and a desperate need for validation that can only be satiated by exerting control over those around them. I've witnessed it firsthand in my own life. Seen it in the way a charismatic friend or family member could effortlessly manipulate others to do their bidding, and am convinced that this is not a rare trait, but rather a common thread that runs through so many of our relationships and interactions. In this video, we're going to peel back the layers and examine the unseen dynamics of power play, how insecurity, manipulation, and self-deception fuel the eternal quest for control, and what it reveals about the darkest corners of the human psyche. When we're consumed by power hunger, it's often a desperate attempt to fill the void created by our own feelings of inadequacy and insecurity, a futile endeavor to compensate for the lack of validation we feel from others. The allure of power is closely tied to our fundamental human desire for control and validation, a primal urge to be seen and accepted by others as superior, worthy, and deserving of love and respect. Behind every manipulative move, there lies an intricate web of insecurities, a desperate bid to shield ourselves from the uncertainty of our own worth, to avoid being vulnerable and exposed in the face of potential rejection. We often use our charm and charisma to mask our deep-seated fears and anxieties, a clever ruse to distract from the truth that our need for control is, in fact, a cry for help, a plea for validation and acceptance that's been denied to us. As we navigate the complex dynamics of power play, it's essential to recognize that the drive for control is rarely about what we say, it's about the hidden fears, insecurities, and ego wounds that haunt us, that we're trying so desperately to keep hidden from the world and from ourselves. The self-deception we employ to justify our behavior is a testament to the extent to which we're willing to deceive ourselves in order to maintain a facade of confidence and power. A fragile illusion that's always teetering on the precipice of collapse, ready to shatter into a million pieces the moment our true insecurities are exposed. The manipulator's playbook is often a complex tapestry woven from threads of deep-seated insecurity and a desperate need for validation, where they use guilt and self-righteousness to get what they want. In reality, what drives the manipulator's behavior is not a desire to help, but an insatiable hunger for control, stemming from a fundamental fear of being powerless. Their actions are not born from a place of attraction, but rather a primal urge to dominate and exploit the vulnerabilities of others, usually to satiate their own cravings for validation and significance. What we often perceive as a charming, charismatic leader may actually be a master manipulator with an incredibly fragile ego, who uses charm and deception to mask their own crippling insecurities and fears. The true manipulator sees relationships not as a dance of mutual respect and trust, but as a battlefield to be conquered, where the winner is defined by their ability to exert maximum control over others. Their tactics may start with whispers of vulnerability and empathy, but they are merely luring their prey into a trap of emotional dependence, a cleverly designed cage designed to keep others enthralled and bound to their will, while they maintain an illusion of omnipotence and power. The desire for power isn't about a thirst for control, it's a desperate attempt to compensate for feelings of insignificance, a cry for validation in a world that often seems dismissive of our true selves. Behind closed doors, people will often sacrifice relationships and integrity to achieve a false sense of security, one that comes from the fleeting high of having the upper hand, rather than the genuine warmth of real connection. When we seek power over others, what we're really seeking is the validation of our own self-worth, a validation that's often been denied to us in our lives. It's a vicious cycle. We crave control because we're desperate to feel worthy, but in seeking control, we inevitably reinforce our own feelings of inadequacy. The pursuit of power is, at its core, a manifestation of our deep-seated fear of being insignificant or unattractive to others. It's a fear that can drive us to extreme lengths, including manipulation and self-deception, in an effort to prove our worthiness and relevance. Self-deception is often the greatest enemy of true relationships and personal growth, as it allows us to conveniently forget our own insecurities and flaws in favor of a more flattering self-image. But this facade can be incredibly fragile, and when its cracks begin to show, it's often too late to salvage the damage that's been done. Ultimately, the pursuit of power is a doomed quest for a sense of belonging, a sense of being seen and valued by others. But true belonging can never be achieved through control or manipulation. It can only be earned through genuine connection and a willingness to be vulnerable. When we grasp at control, we're often attempting to soothe the anxiety of being seen as vulnerable. Fear drives our pursuit of validation as we crave reassurance that we're worthy and loved. The irony is that our need for control can inadvertently create more anxiety as we become trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and insecurities. In the end, it's not about power, but about the desperate desire for emotional safety, which only serves to amplify our insecurities. Anger and shame often masquerade as confident assertiveness, when in reality they are just coping mechanisms for deep-seated fears. Ultimately, the obsession with control stems from an unconscious attempt to compensate for feelings of inadequacy and low self-worth. The pursuit of power ultimately consumes us because we're never quite convinced that others see us as we see ourselves, and this perceived lack of validation becomes the driving force behind our actions. When we're insecure, we don't crave power for its own sake. We crave the sense of security that comes with it, the illusion that our control will shield us from hurt and abandonment. We're drawn to people who will validate our sense of self, who will confirm that we're worthy of love and respect. But what we often overlook is that this validation is temporary, and it can never truly satisfy our deep-seated fears. At its core, our obsession with control is an attempt to alleviate our own feelings of powerlessness. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how power actually operates. It's not about dominating others, but rather about being seen, heard, and understood by them. The ego is a fragile thing, and when we're forced to confront our own vulnerability, we often respond by escalating our aggression, by increasing our grip on those around us in a desperate bid to stay afloat. In the end, it's not about winning or losing, but about recognizing the inherent instability of our own sense of self and learning to live with the uncertainty that comes with it. As we've uncovered the unseen dynamics of power play, it's clear that our pursuit of control can be a double-edged sword, fueling both our highest and darkest impulses. I want to thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery, and I invite you to continue the conversation by liking this video, commenting with your own observations, and subscribing for more in-depth explorations of human psychology. Together, let's confront the shadows that drive us and emerge stronger, wiser, and more whole.